everyone, my name is Denise and I'm the owner of D is for Delicious. Welcome to our cookie class today. We're going to be decorating these happy camper themed cookies. And before we dig into our kits, I just want to ask you to do a few things. First, make sure you have clean hands. You'll be handling your cookies and you want to be sure your hands are clean. Also, cover up the surface you're going to be working on. Grab maybe a cookie tray or a plastic tablecloth, paper towels or something to cover up your space. Also, grab some toothpicks, 3 or 4 would be great, paper towels, and a pair of scissors. And then we will get started. So in your cookie kit, let's dig into this. We are going to take out all the contents and just set it aside for right now. I know it's exciting, but don't start trimming your bags just quite yet. We're gonna get out all our supplies, our cookies, our sprinkles, set those aside. This is what we'll be starting with. So we're gonna set this in front of us and everything else just off to the side. In the box, your cookies can go back into at the end for storage. All right, so friends, we are going to divide our cookie class today into 3 separate steps. We're going to outline, we're going to flood, and we're going to detail. Before we start with those steps though, I would love to show you how to use the piping bags. So choose a color, doesn't matter which one, and I'd like you to trim off just a tiny bit off the tip of the bag. Always trim just a bit to begin with. You can always trim more as needed. I'm trimming just enough so that I can cover up my lines on my practice sheet. Before we begin, we always practice. It's a way to warm up your hands and get back into the flow of cookie decorating. So whether you've done this many times or if this is your first time, practicing is really important. I'm right-handed, and so I hold the piping bag at the top with my right hand. And I use my left hand just to steady the bag. It really doesn't do a whole lot. So holding it at the top, I start squeezing to apply pressure. And I'm just following the lines. Notice my icing bag is not touching the surface of the paper. I'm hovering above just a little bit and dragging the icing across. Now let's talk about how to stop this icing. You press down and pull up. If you don't press down and pull up in one solid motion, your icing may trail off just a little bit. So you're squeezing just a bit to follow the line, and then you release pressure and pull up. Now, we all work at our own speeds, and if I'm going too fast, please just press pause and take your time on this. This is really important that you practice following the lines. This is going to give you more confidence and hand control so you can do your best job on your cookies. So we've put a bunch of different lines here on this practice sheet so you can follow along as you try and master using your piping bag. If at any time you notice your icing is not coming out enough that it's covering your line, or if it's breaking in between, you may need to trim your bag just a little bit more. Oh my, the circles are tricky, aren't they? You guys are up for a challenge though, I know it. We'll be doing the same type of thing on our cookies soon as we put our outlines on our cookies, the outside edge. We're doing a heart-shaped cookie today, so this one you really will be doing. And there we have it. So I hope your hands are feeling warmed up. I hope that you noticed a difference in your control from the beginning to the end of the paper. We're done with this, so we can just set this aside for right now. And now we can move on to cutting open our cookies. So let's get out these cookies and get them in front of us. See if you can identify what they are. So we've got a camper here. So cute. We've got a heart. We can put a word on it if you like. We have a t-shirt for a tie-dye t-shirt. Flower. This one might be tricky to see, but it's a peace sign. It's actually a hand with 2 fingers raised. And we have a circle. All right. So remember, we're going to divide this into 3 separate steps. We're going to outline first, flood second, and detail third. All right, so I'm going to put some cookies in front of me in a certain order because they range in level from simpler to more difficult in the decorating. So I'm going to just set them out. I'm going to switch these 2 designs. All right, so here's what we're going to do next. We are going to trim our other piping bags so that they are ready to go. Just like you trimmed the one you did in your example, get the other ones ready so you can choose that color for outlining. Snip off just a little bit. You don't need to trim off too much. All right, so let's get started. When you put icing on a cookie, you should try and get your icing to go as close to the edge of the cookie without going over. All right, so I'm going to begin with the heart. Just like on our practice sheet, we're going to put our icing right here on the cookie, close to the edge without going over. If it goes off the edge, don't worry, take your toothpick, scrape it off a little bit, and start again. This is the foundation for the rest of your icing. So try and get the icing to look as nice as you can. This one area on my cookie is a little far off, so I just fixed it. I repaired it a little bit by adding some more. All right, I'm gonna move on to my tie-dye t-shirt. And by the way, any colors. At this point, choose any colors that you'd like to use. I'd love for you to use full creative freedom. I'm going to outline the t-shirt in white, and I'm going to be filling it later with lots of fun colors. I can't wait to show you how to tie-dye with icing. All right, we're gonna do a happy face over here. Remember, if I'm moving along faster than you're working, don't rush. Just press pause. Make me slow down so that you can take your time. I would love for you to take your time. Okay, so after I've outlined the first 3 cookies, I'm going to really carefully just push them up and out of the way so I can outline the next 3 cookies. These are going to start drying, and I have better control when I work close to my body instead of reaching far away. All right, so on this little camper, the first part I'm going to suggest you do is its wheel. I feel like it just helps to save that space for the tire. So I'm gonna make a white tire. And then you can outline the trailer in any color you'd like. I think I'm gonna do a yellow one. okay? There's a little portion at the end that can be for like a little hitch. I'll do that in a different color later. All right, the peace sign. Now, right now it's not going to look like a peace sign. We're just going to follow the outline of the cookie, and then we're gonna bring it to life a little bit later with some of our detail work. So right now, choose a color, any color, and just follow along the outline of the cookie. I promise this will make way more sense in a little bit. All right. And then for the flower, you can do the flower a few different ways. One way that I think looks really cute is in our example, we did a bunch of different petals. Instead of just following along the outline of the whole cookie, we made some separate petals. So I'm going to show you how to try this look. If you would like to try and just outline the whole cookie in one color, that is really cute too. So I'm just using my different colors and I'm turning my cookie. Lots of bright, happy colors. All right, so we made our petals here and we just finished our outlining stage. Great job, everybody. All right, so let's move on to the second step, which is flooding. We're gonna shuffle our cookies back around and get those cookies closest to us that have had more drying time. Now, when we flood our cookies, we're using the same icing that we just used for outlining. We're just gonna trim the bags a little bit bigger so the icing will come out a little bit faster. Now, maybe you trim some of your bags a little bit on the big side. I wouldn't have you trim them any more than that. Let's just see how your bags flood for you. You can always trim off more. I started with just a little trim for mine. So you're just going to be squeezing a bunch of icing on your cookie. There's no right or wrong place to start. I normally start near the outside edge of my cookie and I move in a swirling motion. It just kind of helps to start blending the icing and moving the icing a little bit as I go around the cookie. And I probably could trim mine just a little bit more. But I don't like to trim it too big because then it pours out. So I'm just going to keep going at this pace. And then I'm using the tip of my icing bag to start to push gently, very gently push the icing up to the outside line. The toothpick also works really well for this part. So you can use a toothpick and you can just very gently nudge your icing up into the outline. I want to make sure there's no cookie peeking through anywhere on this cookie. Not in the center or near the outside edge. And I'm working quickly because the icing, as it starts to sit still, it will start to dry and crust over a little bit. So I'm just going to work on one cookie at a time. So give it a good look over, look all around your cookie and make sure the icing is dragged right up to your outline. And then you can stop and move on. Doesn't it look great? I wish I could peek through and see your cookies too. Okay, here's so much fun. This tie-dye shirt, we are going to add a base color and then we're gonna add some other colors on top and I'm going to show you how to create the tie-dye effect with marbling. So I'm gonna put on some icing. I love marbling on cookies. It's when you take two colors of icing when they're wet and swirl them together in a unique way to give it like a fun pattern. It gets a fun effect in the background. So I'm gonna grab my toothpick because I've put on a bunch of icing. I don't need any more. I'm gonna just push it up to the outside edge. And then when you tie-dye, if you've ever tie-dyed clothes before, you know you can just choose any colors to blend together. So I'm gonna just take a bunch of different colors to create my tie-dye t-shirt. Okay, so I'm gonna take some different colors and I'm just gonna add random lines, okay? These are not in any precise place. I'm just adding some arched lines. They could be straight lines. They could be any type of lines. But you're putting on a bunch of different colors here. And then, using your toothpick, this is where the fun begins. So you're gonna take a toothpick. You're gonna start in the middle and you're just gonna start to drag your icing all around. Just drag it through. Any direction. You can move your toothpick in any direction you want. You can make your lines wavy. You can make them straight. As you'll see, this really neat pattern starts to happen, and the more you move your toothpick through, the more it'll blend the colors. So have fun with that. If you go too much swirling, it will start to combine quite a bit. So I think that I'm happy with where it's hard to stop, but I think I'm gonna leave it be now because I like the swirl on my cookie. So we're gonna let this just be. We're not gonna add any more detail to it right now. We'll add a peace sign at the end, but this is how you do marbling. All right, that was so fun. So we're gonna move on to this next shape, which we're going to turn into a smiley face at the end. Or you could draw a peace sign on this one in the end too. That's another fun option. You can do anything you like to this cookie. Maybe you loved marbling so much that you want to try that again. It is up to you, my friends. Let's just put on a bunch of icing. Speaking of a bunch of icing, if you ever put on a little too much icing, what you'll notice will happen is it will start to pour off the edge of the cookie. It's not a problem. I find that the best way to solve that though is to let it just keep flowing. And once it starts to dry, it's much easier to just swipe off and correct. So you can clean it up off the edge of your cookie if you just let it drip over. It just means a little too much icing was applied onto the top of the cookie. And that's just something that takes practice to find that like happy medium. So I'm gonna let this dry before I add a smiley face to it. And I'm going to shuffle my cookies around. I encourage you to be so careful. Don't handle the wet cookies. Just slide with your finger to move it up and out of the way. We want those to hang out and just start to dry so that we can add some fun details. All right, the camper. I'm gonna flood this. I feel like this would be my kind of camping. I don't think I've ever camped in a camper though. I've always wanted to. We've stayed in a cabin, we've stayed in a tent before, but I think campers look so fun. We'll be adding some fun little touches to the camper after this dries. but for now we're just gonna get it flooded. So make sure you get on a bunch of icing, and then you can use the edge of your bag or a toothpick to gently just get all of the icing pushed right up to the outside edge. And then we have that tire, we can fill that in. All right, now with the peace sign, you can fill this in a solid color or you can try marbling again. I'm gonna try marbling again. So do what you would prefer. I'm gonna trim this bag just a little bit more. Coming out a little too slow. And this is a pretty big cookie. So I want to have it come out just a little faster. Much better. Are you guys loving these colors as much as I am? I just love them. They look so fun together. The marbling has to be done when the icing is wet. It has to be wet to be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to go back to the heart-shaped cookie and do any marbling because it's already been sitting there too long. So you have to do it on a shape that still has wet icing on it. And you don't put the icing in any special spot when you are doing marbling. I'm just really adding color anywhere I see a space. And then as you start to pull out your lines, I don't know if you notice it, but you start to move the icing. Like I notice on my cookie, it starts to pull toward the edge. And so I'm trying to be careful not to like create a big wave and have all this wet icing fall off. I'm being mindful of the movement of the icing. And so I might move in the other direction to just get the icing to come away from the edge. So there's no real pattern. You're just kind of playing around. See what you like. I love to see a lot of colors. That is a fun time. All right, and then the flower. So we have some petals on our flower. Let's fill those in. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to flood your cookies. Some cookies can just be one solid color. Some cookies can have a wet on wet technique applied. Other cookies can be detailed in a bunch of different, or not detailed quite yet, but flooded in a bunch of different colors like this one. That's what I love about cookie decorating. There's just no one way to do it. The sky's the limit. And the orange petal. Be sure to press pause at any point if you are flooding and you're not quite ready for what I'm talking about. And this was the flooding stage. So if you haven't finished flooding your cookies, why don't you just pause the video? And in fact, I would love it if you would pause the video because we should let our cookies dry now for about 5 to 10 minutes. It's best if they can sit and crust over just a little bit before we put on all of the fun details. So press pause when you're done flooding, and I'll see you in 5 minutes or so. All right, so our final step is detailing, and that's when we put on all the cute little touches. We've included in your kit 2 extra piping bags in case any of your bags are trimmed a little too big and you want to just start fresh. We've included some bags for you. So I think for me, I am going to rebag my white and maybe my orange. So in order to do that, here's what you do. Off to the side, not right above your cookies. Off to the side, just trim off a lot of the bag so the icing will come out a little bit quicker. And put the old bag inside the new bag, and you'll have a nice fresh start. I tie a knot in the bag. If you have a rubber band, that would work. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, I think, to my orange. I'm gonna trim it off to the side. Now on our cookies, you can start detailing whichever one you want. We've given them enough drying time that they're all kind of ready. One thing I forgot to mention was the sprinkles. I don't want to forget to add some sprinkles to my cookies. Maybe you've added yours already if you would like to add sprinkles. All right, so on the cookies, I'm going to start with the camper right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a door. I'm going to make a door for the camper. So I'm going to start it just down in this area. I'm just going to make a rectangle. And while I give that just a moment to dry, I'm going to take another color and just make some stripes on the side of the camper. Make it look a little fun. You can even add another color stripe beside it if you like. I have to retrim my bags that I just made. This is really the part of cookie decorating where you should just feel inspired to be creative. If you want to try something, try it. I'm going to fill in my door. I think a camper with a blue door would be fun. I'm also going to do a little detail work on the tire. I think it would look cute to have a peace sign on it. Okay, so I'm gonna let that be before I add a little doorknob, and then that one will be complete. Let's add a little hitch, the spot where you connect it to your car. And there we have our camper. All right, so the fingers. Here we go. We're gonna trim our bag. I redid my white. I'm not sure if you also rebagged your white, but I need to trim it and get it ready. So we're going to outline the fingers, and then we're going to give it the look of the peace sign. Okay, so here's where we're gonna start. We'll start off to the side. I'm gonna stop there, and then this is going to be a finger here. There we go. We're going to make another finger off to the side. This is like the pinky, so it's a little shorter. Okay? And then we're going to follow all the way around. And we're going to make a thumb. going in a little bit like this. And there we have a peace sign. That is so cute. All right, and the flower, this is where I was thinking the sprinkles would look so cute. So I'm gonna make a big center area of white. And I'm just gonna add some sprinkles on top of that section. Maybe it'll look like a little pollen or something. It's so colorful, this mix. There we have it. All right, now the other cookies, I'm gonna move closer to me. So here comes our shuffle, our cookie shuffle. Be so careful. Even though they look on the dry side, they're really wet still. They actually need all night to dry completely. Okay, so on the heart, in our example, we created some bubble letters. You can write however you like. You can make a smiley face on this if you prefer, instead of writing. I'm gonna write out the word love in some bubble letters. All right, so the way I'm gonna do that is I'm first just gonna do like the outline of the letters. And these letters are kind of wonky, like they're not really straight, they're just very bubbly. They're not really connected. And they just fill up space on the heart. So there's an O. I'm going to get my V tucked in here. I'm not making really straight lines. I'm trying to just be a little squiggly. So this is a good one to write on because writing sometimes can feel a little bit tricky, but on this, you really can't go wrong. So I outlined my letters first, and I'm just gonna give them a moment before I fill them in, just to let them harden just a little bit, just a tiny bit. So while I'm letting those dry, I'm gonna move on to my tie-dye shirt, and I'm gonna do an outline of a color on the outside, just to make it pop. I feel like an outline gives it a little bit of dimension. So I just picked yellow. And then in the center of the shirt, point out a peace sign. I always think it's hard to stop when you're on the detailing step. It gets sad to have it come to an end. All right. And now we can make a happy face, or maybe you can make a peace sign on here. You can do whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to make a happy face. I'm going to make some oval shaped eyes, kind of long, narrow eyes. And sometimes when I make a shape and it's a little bigger than the other one, then I go back and just kind of try and make them match. Okay? And then I'm gonna do a big smile. And at the end, I'll just do this little notch. There we go. And then we're gonna add just a few more finishing touches. I'm gonna go to my camper and add a little doorknob, like that. I'm gonna go to my love, just kind of fill it in. There's a lot of icing on this cookie right here. Oh my goodness. It's gonna be so good. And there we have it. We have our Happy Camper set all finished. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Something to let you know, the cookies would be really happy just hanging out in the box all night, your cookie kit box. They need all night to dry completely, so don't stack them right now on top of one another. They need all night to dry completely. I think they taste best after they dry completely, but people eat them while, right after a class all the time. So feel free to do what you prefer. And please share your picture with us. We'd love to see what you've done, and we hope you'll join us next time for our next cookie class. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.